And it's week 9. So thank you all for all the work you've done so far to be able to take some data, try to figure out how to classify it, organize it, and then navigate through it, which brings us all the way back to some of the themes in week 1. So hopefully you've seen over the past 8 weeks, all of this is a slow build up to your presentation that you, or your work that you presented and was graded as part of assignment 3. And now what you're going to do is kind of take that journey and look at a service and use those techniques and ideas to try to unpack and understand how do these very I would call them impactful services manage all the information that they get. So most of them are going to receive on the order of tens of thousands or millions of pieces of data per day. So that is a real challenge for an information architect, much different from the one that you went through, but not completely dissimilar. I think you're going to have some insight, and I want the paper to reflect that insight. So let's talk about where to start. First of all, let's go. We can go back to week 8, but we have spent most of the course just getting to the information layer. And I know that seems like a lot of work, and yes, it is a lot of work. And all you really end up with is information, which many of you might have the phrase in your mind, too much information, meaning there is a lot of information, but one thing that's critical is you gave it context, and you learned how to give it context through both positioning on the page plus words that helped people understand what context you're speaking of and what it is you were talking about. So don't give yourself too hard of a time. It's actually very valuable to take data and turn it into information. As we've seen, it took 8 weeks. But now we reach the week I think I mentioned quite a bit, which is one that all of you probably struggled with if you got my notice about what the sort order was. So for example, if I clicked on a topic in your navigation, what would appear on the page? And I think almost every one of you struggled with that, right? Sometimes you had to lay out a whole bunch of choices like tell me what you want. And in information architecture, we have learned some techniques and develop techniques to kind of give people a head start in showing what they want. And that is for sure the topic of metadata. So please start here. And by the way, metadata is also taking us one step up the pyramid to knowledge. And knowledge is power. Knowledge is good. Knowledge means, in my organization style here, I'm saying knowledge means that someone has vetted this as being worth your attention. It isn't just base knowledge, such as every book in the world. I can give you a database of every book ever published or something like that, but how would you know which one to read, right? It's just too daunting to try to go through that much information. And so over time, we've developed a lot of these techniques. The New York Times bestseller list, for example, seems to be authority that says once you've sold a certain amount of books, then people should buy your book. What I would like you to think is, okay, wait, is it not a self-fulfilling prophecy that if I say something is being sold, more people will buy it? Yeah, I think it's worth saying that, right? So, however, the digital world gives us different opportunities to actually influence what someone may or may not consider popular or worth engaging with. So that's what we're going to talk about this week. So let me get to, that's the quick guide. Let's get to, modules. Here we go. Module 9 is readings and media. Take a look at this. There's a lot to think about this week. So this will actually help a lot as you begin to understand what data is used that you may not have had the advantage of using. 2 of the major ones is going to be identity, meaning I know it's a person. I've asked you to log in or create an account or be non-anonymous so that I can track what you have done on my site. Second is by tracking people and what they do on the site, you can display that information to others. And probably the most famous one of these is like a star rating or something like that. That is understandable, right? You say many people hopefully say how they think about something, and that actually is sort of brand new, meaning we've created that idea that anyone can go out and rate something. Yet, of course, there are problems with that too. So this is trying to get into both the positives and negatives of this, and the activities this week are many. So one thing is, how do you create this, I'd call it illusion or reality of trust. So we're going to talk about trust. We're also going to talk about data visualization, and this is just to whet your appetite. This is not a data visualization class, but in the very beginning, I asked you not to use numbers in your data. But yes, numbers can be used, and they can be used in many different ways. It's just a very different topic. We also, in this class, didn't talk about searching. So remember, many of you kind of wanted to use free text searching. I call it, meaning you can put any phrase you want into a box, and somehow it manages to figure that out. We're not getting into that because that is also complex due to the fact that one must kind of understand what data the site has in order to search. It's complicated. So we're actually trying to still do it old-fashioned, like we're just going to take in information. So in this case, I do think this particular thing is a really interesting. Whoops. So it was interesting if you could open it, but this is about ratings. Let me fix this link because it's kind of a cool example of how something is rated, but the rating itself is different in every company. So therefore, there's so many different styles of ratings. It's just it's fun. It's a little fun tidbit about rating things. But yes, this is about trust. What sites do you trust? Where do you trust the ratings? And trust is a big part of metadata. We want to trust things. We want to make sure that it's not leading us astray. Also, this week, and let me go back here, take a good close look at the final paper. It's going to be actually done in another platform, I guess you'd call them, called Medium. And Medium is going to be going to house this, and it's something you can share with the world or not. It's up to you. But it is a really interesting platform. Also, it's going to be a platform that somebody may also analyze because it is able to take in data like writing and help you organize it and manage it. So I do want you to take a look here at the assignments, and please take a read and let me know what you think. If there's some confusion about this, I'm happy to have a sync session. I do have a list here of different areas that one of you should pick one of these in order to analyze it. And it does kind of go into what I'm looking for as well. This is really important. Think about this. And as always, we're going to be able to share while it's in progress and outline things like that to get feedback, to make sure that you're using your IA focus in the right way. Because there's a lot that can be distracting about these platforms. So that being said, first thing maybe this week is if you have one of these that you've used, or it's one that's similar to the data that you have been working with, that's really fun too, right? Because you've been working or analyzing some kind of data. Maybe one of these is a place where that data is used. I would do the same ideas before. If you've picked it, go ahead and put it here as a picked. And if you like, I'm going to ask you over here, what is the core data, or what's the core content? And the reason for this is if you look at it, most of them are fairly simple, right? They started out simple too. So one tip in this is to actually look back at articles, or you can use a thing called the Wayback Machine to look at services before today, because as many things, things change and they add and bolt on new things. But really, most of these services started with a core piece of data. Twitter is a good one, right? It was called a tweet. And in the beginning, it had a certain character length and it had certain attributes. It really hasn't changed too much, although they allowed you later to add images. They doubled the length of it. They did those things, but they're not as important as that core data, which is a piece of text. And if you were analyzing Twitter, one of the things that came much later is the hashtag. Someone actually, not Twitter, invented the hashtag, which is a fun topic. But the hashtag is very much like a taxonomy. It's something that you can use to organize groups of information. So what you're still looking at is to use the lens that we have gone through in class, the different activities that you've experienced when organizing data, to help bring insight to one of these very big and popular services. And that's sort of unlocking the key or the mystery behind it all. And then next week we'll even talk the higher level, which is about algorithms and how could you create something actionable, right? This idea of trust and or rating is still not the highest level, right? It's just weeding through all the information to maybe get engaged in something that might be of interest to you or to make a decision. It's very important, but it's still not the top. And that's week 9. And as I said, I'm happy to discuss things in person, offline, have a sync session. Let me know what works for you. And I'll be happy to make that happen. Good luck.